Oh, where is that? What's up, everybody? How's it going? Hey, what's up, legends? Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Anything new and exciting? Ooh, we got some viewers pouring in. What's up, Invasion? How's it going, bro? Did we all have a good weekend? Did anyone get to catch that Lions game where they got smoked by the Ravens? Uh, that was sad. I'm waiting to see what T Town's got to say about that. Uh, Everything's good. Yeah, Rick is around. He'll come around shortly. He's doing some Rick things. I know, we all missed Rick. So, did anyone see the exciting announcements for Tinder battles? Are you going? Who's going? A bit but hurt. My Astros lost, but looking forward to my Texans finally not being booty. Are you in fantasy MLB? I've always wanted to get into baseball. It's kind of intimidating. It seems like a lot. And I feel like when you do get into it and you want to follow everybody, like you kind of have to get the MLB network to even like remotely be caught up to the whole deal. But like my thing with sports is like I really don't want to watch unless I'm like watching like at least from preseason, because it's just like too hard to keep up with. I don't like to just watch the game to see if a team wins or loses or not. Like I need context. I need to know what's going on in the players' lives and like how it's going to affect their next game and where they came from and oh, this guy went to this college and he also was like in the same college as this other guy. They went to college together and here they're facing each other. Like that's the stuff that interests me. I don't
So,
care who wins or loses.
so you're like into the whole Taylor Swift thing then?
You know what? I think it's freaking hilarious. Like Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift look like the best of friends now.
They
It
look
is
like they've been friends
hilarious.
for life, don't they?
I know. They're just like high fiving and dancing around, and they even have their like own handshake. You just see them in the box with their little secret handshake all the time. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
Hey, I just think it's cool that Kansas City's got um Kelsey and Swift and then the Eagles got Kelsey and Swift too.
uh,
Although I think that Eagles Kelsey and Swift is a more dynamic duo. I don't think the Swift on Kansas City really does a whole lot.
they someone actually went back and did a statistic sheets and to see if like Kelsey is performing better or worse when Taylor Swift is there at his game. And the math shows that he's actually done better in all the games that she has been at.
Well, that's because he's not just out there playing his best. He's trying to impress. You know, he's a spotlight guy. He's boy, put a camera on that guy and he's a fucking hoot. So, you
He's
know, I
in so
mean,
many commercials. He's sponsored by Pfizer COVID shot.
yeah, that commercial's kind of dumb.
Oh, I'll take two. You know.
I don't know. I kind of like how like everybody's getting the whole team involved in commercials now.
Yeah, the State Farm guy. And then have you noticed that the State Farm guy is also in the VIP box with the wives and Taylor Swift, and they're just all like partying? Like he's like one of the guys now. It's
Well,
freaking
yeah,
hilarious.
it's one of the
J-
perks.
the, the 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 Jake from State Farm.
I miss the
The
old
new
Jake from State Farm.
I know. He wore khakis. Dude, Jeremy, what's up?
Who are these guys? I hear Jeremy won some races.
Jeremy wins all the races.
I don't know if he wins all the races, but he seems to win his share. Definitely.
Ugh.
Was your head
If I,
cold?
no, I just like felt like wearing a hat. I'm like looking around. I know I own like 20 hats and there's like none in sight. And I'm like, I wonder if there's a hat in this Tint Wiz Tinder Battles bag. And I found one. I didn't even know
Hell
there was
yeah.
a hat in there. It's a nice hat.
It's not a bad hat.
No, I
Definitely
should.
not a bad
Well, I
hat.
should flip it.
Why?
Ah, ah, hold
What
on.
is that? What does that say? Oh, tenor
Ah,
battles. Okay.
yeah. Oh, nice. Dude, I
On a
don't know.
bike you
Like,
never rode. That's pretty sweet. What's up, Robert or
I'm
Roberto? I'm sorry.
I'm all down for adrenaline rushes and stuff, but like, I don't know. I feel like racing bikes is not it for me.
Yeah, I'm more of a slow and steady adrenaline rush. You know, ease into it. That whole 0 to a million is just not for me. Too much potential for violence. Although some rollovers can be pretty violent. Crawling just depends on
Like,
where you roll at.
got too fast again. 121 in the 1/8 mile. Like,
That's pretty
that's
quick.
there's some of those turns too. Like, I watched like the crotch rocket guys, and they're like, their bikes are just like totally leaned over. I just
Well, his objective is to keep that sucker perpendicular from the ground. He's not trying to corner.
is it? Oh yes, he's. It's just drag races, right?
Yeah, just problem is with the drag weight race is one little wobble and it can throw your ass anywhere.
Yeah, I've never rid anything more than a dirt bike, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I go and like do my eval next Tuesday, so it's like one step further into getting my license back.
Does that mean you need to be off of work?
It does.
If only there was somebody in your life you needed to tell about that.
Yeah, I just found out today.
Oh.
I was gonna tell you after Tool Talk because
You was gonna tell all of Tool Talk before me. Okay, got it. All
no,
right.
I was going to tell you after Tool Talk. I was going to bring it up in Tool Talk. It just reminded me because it was like, oh, I haven't driven a dirt bike. Oh, you know what else I haven't driven in a while? That was kind of like what was going in my head.
Like, oh, shiny.
But it'll be cool. I already have a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a like 2002 Buick LeSabre. little boat. It's nice. My tint keg is leaking from where I connect the water hose. Should I replace the O ring or the whole part? You should
Okay,
replace.
so that's kind of a trick question because it's gonna be just an O-ring, but the question is, how is it leaking? Which O-ring is it? Is it leaking while the hose is disconnected? If not, and it's only leaking when the hose is connected, then it's going to be the outer O-ring on the post. If it's leaking while it's disconnected, it's either going to be the O-ring on the dip tube itself or the little poppet O-ring. And that's going to depend on whether it's coming out the tiny little hole in the top or if it's coming out between the post and the keg while disconnected. I don't know. Alex, let's
Yes.
send him a an
An O
O-ring
ring
kit.
pack.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's quick and easy.
I will make it an order.
Where are you, Roberto? Is it leaking a lot? The hole in the top, so it's just a poppet O-ring. We could send him a whole ass poppet with the O-ring on it. That way he doesn't have to fight with it. Because, we're really good at changing those O-rings, but everybody I've ever seen change one of those O-rings for the first time always struggled.
Dude, I stabbed myself with my thumbnail doing one the other day.
It's weird though, because usually they don't go bad. That's usually not the piece that leaks. It's usually the outer O-ring. But the outer O-ring has nothing to do with when the hose is not connected.
I'll get it together. Let's see.
Where is he?
He is in Clear Lake, California.
Ugh, so far away. We should send it 3-day. It'll cost a little bit more, but he'll have it before the weekend.
Oh, ship station 2-day is 16.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we
That's
should do
ship
that.
station's rates.
Yeah, we should do that then. That'll get it to him Thursday. Jeremy, you need one of everything from us. Alex is handling it. He's out there doing it, Roberto. Don't worry, Roberto. We give him a lifetime warranty, so we will take care of the parts. Back to work. You should have all that money saved up so you can just shop with us. You don't have to worry about it, Roberto. If you want to help though, then just head on over to um click the QR code, head over to sundistributingdirect.com and buy all your coolest tools because we could always use the help. It's definitely a good thing. We like it. We like it a lot. You should make tutorial videos on your channel on things like that. Fully rebuilding a keg properly, flushing out and cleaning the filters and on the keg, how to change the quick connectors, and more. That's a great idea. And we're obviously, you guys are probably feeling it too. We're definitely starting to slow down. So, and today I've been sitting around thinking, oh, there's so many things I need to do, and I don't want to do any of them. But that is one of the things that did not cross my mind. So, actually, that's a good idea. We should start making more. We're hoping to pick up. We had a really good weekend and yesterday, but then today is crap. Our cart is like, I don't know, got like 4 packages on it or something. Today was a flop, but it bees like that this time of year. I need to be more like some of those other companies and just focus on the companies that make the money and screw all the little people. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's just wrong. I can't do that. I'm in it with you guys. I'm a tinner just like you guys. Although I don't tin anymore because I just don't want to. But I might have to because, like, I need to sell more stuff. Or I need to go tint cars or houses or skyscrapers. I could tint a skyscraper and, like, no, that takes too much time. Ain't
Never
nobody
have
got
to
time
work
for that.
again. Is that what you're gonna say?
No, because one thing that I've noticed over the years and over the progression of, finances is that it doesn't matter how much or how little you make. It's really about the type of spender you are. And I am the type of spender that spends it all. I, if I make more, I spend more. And the more I make, the more I have to push and try. And, you know, Jeremy's all rubbing it in. Yep. Yep. I wished I was like a big guy in the business. I'm just a little guy in the business. Although I do pick the best film to sell my customers. Just know that. And if you haven't tried it, you should. We used to have a lot of dealership work. We finally got rid of all the damn dealerships because, you know what? Dealing with their accounts payable department just sucks. Just when you think you get them back under control and paying their bills like they're supposed to, then all of a sudden you realize there's a couple invoices not paid. Then you got to start that whole mess all over again. Until one day you decide that their money is not as green as everybody else's.
Oh, I think it's your poppet O-ring.
That's what I said.
Yeah, it's your poppet O-ring. Let's see.
Huh. Ooh, it's almost focusing. It come real close. Oh yeah.
That's fun. Do you have a ceramic film recommendation at 80 that doesn't have blue hue? So that's kind of a trick question.
Well, the short answer is no, because at an 80%, there's really no dye in it, and the ceramic particles are blue. So that's where you're going to get that.
I wonder if you can get a ceramic hybrid dyed film.
Well, the problem is you add any dye to it, you're going to have to take ceramic out of it because for that shade, you can't have any coloring or the VLT is going to go down.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a lose-lose situation. That's like saying I've got these 6 foot by 5-foot windows that on my building that I want all black film on, and it faces the sun and has an awning. You can't do that. I mean, everybody wants that, but it doesn't matter. If you do that, then you'll have problems. And with ceramic, if you find a blackish looking ceramic at 80%, put a meter on it. I can promise you it's not ceramic. It just, that's ceramics blue. I wished it wasn't, but that's the short answer. Now, with that being said, you should just buy Supernova. And actually, oh, we didn't get the Alpha 80 or 70, did we? We just, but we do have the Supreme 70.
Yes, which is I still oh I actually restarted my computer so I don't have it up anymore.
Got to take the good with the bad.
Well, Illustrator was acting slow because I had done a lot of stuff and I think it just needed a cache.
Yeah, that'll happen from time to time. And don't forget, you can frequently use that trick I showed you with cleanup space with the OneDrive folder. And because OneDrive will just,
Oh,
as you start using those files, start
it
accumulating in your hard drive.
I actually figured out the whole scratch disk thing because it kept happening even after that. But apparently, in the settings, you can designate what drive is your scratch disk. So when I made it the 1 terabyte drive, it like made it a lot more smoother. So
Ceramic benefits without noticing it from the outside. See, the problem is with that latest shade. Well, our 70 isn't more expensive than the commons. We do pay more for it, and that is because they put more ceramic in it because they don't have the color in it, if that makes sense. Because the ceramic or the oxide material is more expensive than the carbon material. So that's why a lot of people charge more because they pay more. Like I said, we pay more. I've never been under the belief system that you charge different for different shades. And I always harp on the manufacturer for charging more for different shades. And I tell them I'm not playing their stupid game, which is probably a poor business mistake on my part. But if I was buying it for myself and my company to use, which actually I am, then I would want the price to be the same across the board because otherwise, if I paid more for this or that, then I would have to charge more for this or that, at least in my mind, and it would mess with me. So I just let it mess with me, and that way I don't put that burden on my customers. It's all in the name of customer service.
also, there is a potential that the people that do get the 70, like say like a shop, isn't there a chance that they could be buying 70 in a different line? Like a more premium line of ceramic than their like 5 through 50? Because
Sometimes,
there could be that idea of like if a person's going to feel the effects of ceramic the most, it's going to be the windshield. So like I mean there might have to go with the 70% and that's what I can offer. So I have our stat chart up, and the stat sheet for our supernova on broadband spectrum is 71%. But for the premium, it's 84%, and for the alpha, it's 95.
right? And honestly, the alpha. So just little heads up to everybody. We're actually playing with some different films around here, and we get enough people saying, "How come you don't have that super ceramic stuff?" So I'm like, "Fine." And I actually got a couple rolls here. I don't have them on the website yet. If you special requested it, I could sell it to you. I will tell you it's very, very expensive, but it's also very, very amazing with next to no low angle haze. I mean, it's there. Obviously, with that much um, oxide material in it, it's going to start showing up a little bit more. But it's not, if you don't look for it, you don't see it. So customers don't complain about it. It's a good film to work with, and it seems to be. I mean, my problem with it is the darker you go with it, the more it absorbs over the other films, and you start feeling the heat from the window radiating off you. Even though it isn't getting through the window itself's getting hotter. um, but currently we have a 20 because that's our most popular shade, and we have a 50, and I'm toying with getting the 70 just because the 70s scream, but the 70 is even bluer. So there's that. The nice thing about it is, though, when it's just a layer on the glass, you don't really see the blue so much. Now, on a building, you're probably going to see it a little bit more, but I still want to wager that it's going to be hardly noticeable.
We
And
do
yes,
not. We
oh,
don't carry 70% outside of 40-inch and 60-inch. So if you want a 36-inch, you'd have to buy a 60-inch and get it cut at 24-36, or
but
else we get
if
stuck with a 24.
if you're wanting to buy a 36 by 50 because of the cost difference, here's the thing. I have to buy either a 40 or a 60, and nobody's buying 24-inch 70%. Why, I don't know, because I mean, to be honest with you guys, if you're doing SUVs and say you're matching the front and they're getting ceramic, you could buy a 24-inch, and um me amongst a bunch of other people would discount it, but people won't buy it. But the reality is, you could upsell that customer that just got his two fronts and not change the look of the back of the vehicle, but amplify the heat blockage immensely by putting a layer of 70 over the back. And there's a lot of customers that have the kind of money that will, if it makes sense to them to do it, they do it, regardless
I
of the cost. So,
I mean, 70 on factory glass would make it a 24 if it was a 35. If it was 20,
well, it
it
doesn't
would
matter
make
if,
it
I mean, if
15.
if you're going to put a meter on it, but the reality is we look at SUVs and minivans all day long and we just assume that they're 20 until they start getting in that 35 range. And the reality is they go down as low as 12 and up as high as 35. And we look at them like they're all the same. And when somebody wants to match the front windows on an SUV, we tell them 20. So it stands to reason that you can tell your customer that you're going to put 70 on the back and it's not going to change the appearance, because it won't. The customer won't notice the difference.
Right.
A lot of people, they want to put 50 over the back because they just want it darker, and the reality is, if they're sitting at 20, 50 is going to make it 10. But I've done this enough times where I've put 50 over a customer's factory tint and they say I can't tell the difference, and then you got an unhappy customer. So sometimes you got to overshoot or overpromise to meet the customer's expectation, because the customer
Mm.
isn't going to look at the meter and say, "Oh, okay, so it is darker," because if they don't see it, they don't believe it. That's the same thing with, all these companies out there splitting hairs with performance numbers on ceramic films. It's hilarious that somebody's going to buy ceramic film from this company because it's got 3 more percent IR blockage. But the reality is, put it in front of the sun or put it on a heat box and hold your hand in front of it. The real test is what you can see, feel, and smell with your own body. And if you can't tell the difference, then it's not different. I mean, that's just, and I kind of learned that doing like car graphics, vehicle lettering and stuff, because old boss I worked for, he wanted me to measure everything. And I was very anti tape measure because the reality is I can measure it and then I get complaints from the customer because it looks crooked. So it'd be better if I didn't measure it and I made it look straight, because sometimes you got two different angles on top and bottom and you got to split the difference. Even though you purposely made it not straight, to the customer it looks straight, to me it looks straight, to everybody it looks straight, but don't put a tape measure on it because it's not straight. And it's kind of the same thing with many facets of life, that the reality is much different than the perception. And with customer service, you got to go with the customer's perception. You got to give them what they'll believe, and they'll believe what they see. If you don't believe me, just talk to anybody about what they saw on TikTok. Oh, that took a hard left. But yeah, so the only reason we got the 40 inch and not the 36 inches, because if I was to sell you a 36 inch, I would have to eat a 24 inch. And
But I mean, the price from a 3650 compared to a 4050 is really not like that far off. So you might as well, I mean, like, don't let it steer you away.
yeah, we used to do 3650s, and it was just building up oddball rolls. For starters, I can't sell a 24 by 50. I mean, I suppose I could offer it, but the cardboard and the caps, end caps, and the poly tubing, it all gets expensive. And I have to charge for that otherwise, because I got almost $20 into a box. If I roll down a roll of film for you, that box and the end caps and the core and everything is almost $20. And I can't eat that, so I have to charge that to you. Well, it would stand to reason if I'm going to roll down a 60 to make a 24. Granted, I already used the core, but it's still two more end caps in another box, and the poly tube that goes over it, and it's a 50-inch roll or 50-foot roll at 24 inches, and the $20 I'd have to add to that, or even if I lowballed it and said 15 that I'd have to add to that, then makes it a lot harder to financially manage, and it screws with the numbers. And these are all the stupid things that I had to learn the hard way, because, keep in mind, guys, I'm a window tinter just like you. That's where I was, that's where I grew up. In 89, I started tinting windows professionally. And until 2009, no, 2011, I was just a window tinter. After 2011 until 2017, I was a window tint business owner who tinted windows. But in 2017, well, actually 2016, but 2017 is when I really started pushing forward with Sun Distributing. And I believe it was 2019, maybe no, it was like 2020 when I stopped tinting full time. And I think like a tinner. So all the things that I didn't like about the distribution side of things in our industry was from a tinner's perspective. And so I have tried everything that I wanted different, and many of them have stuck, but there's a lot of them that I learned the hard way why the distributors and manufacturers do things the way that they do. I wanted to give free shipping on everything, but my problem is I also want to ship the best. I hated it when people would send shit to me USPS, because USPS is unreliable. which is not something you could have said when I was a kid, but that's today's truth. And so I ship UPS only. Well, UPS costs more because you get what you pay for. And I tried to do free shipping on all orders, and that bit me in the ass because it cost me 12, 14, $16 at a minimum to some of these addresses, even if it's a little envelope I'm sending to somebody, and they would order just like a hard card or an Olfa knife or something, and it would cost me more than the total sale to ship the product, and you can see where that would run somebody out of business. So then I raised it to where it made a little more sense to me. And unfortunately, I still didn't see the whole outlook because it screwed with my numbers, which meant that I had to do more per week in order to just make basic bills. And so then I had to raise it again. And now it's back to where the industry is at, which is $7.50 for free shipping, because anything less than that, it just messes with things that you don't even think about until you get a big enough sample size that shows you that it won't work. You can't sustain that way, which sucks. But on the other hand, I did do something that nobody else is doing, and that's on our website. You know, we've got the subscribe and save thing. So, like, you know that you're going to use, let's say, blades, razor blades, NT blades or Olfa blades, or even squeegee blades or slip solution. You know that you got a pretty good average of how often you go through these things, and we've put the ability to set those up as a reoccurring shipment. And as a result of setting it and forgetting it, we give you a 5% discount on the product. I'd love to do more, but another thing that I found out the hard way is that there is no money in tools unless you're going to China, which, as you notice looking at my website, I don't have Chinese knockoffs. You know, if you see it on somebody else's website and you don't see it on mine, there's a really good chance, because it's a Chinese knockoff. It's not, you know, aside from oh, that fool down in Georgia, um, film bender dude, um, Gasket Pro Tools. You don't see their squeegees on my website, and that's not because they're a Chinese knockoff. That's because, for whatever reason, I just can't get the connection made with them to actually carry them. I don't know. He says that he's selling too many, he can't keep up, and as soon as he can spare some to send me to sell, he will. And you know, I've been waiting a couple of years on that, so I'm done holding my breath on that. When it happens, it happens. Hopefully, it doesn't happen when he's slow and hurting, because chances are I'll be slow and hurting at that time too. And I don't have, you know, I still have to have the money to put in. So everyone needs to charge what it costs them to produce the quality product they offer. Customers will judge your worth, but you have to know what yours is. And that's 100% true. And it's crazy. Business is its own thing, as a lot of you guys have probably figured out, because not every one of you works for somebody else. A lot of you guys work for yourself, or you're are just getting started working for yourself, and you're starting to find out that there's so many hidden costs. You know, I have to chuckle when I see a tinner post. I can't believe you guys charge so much for a tint job. I work out of my house and I do mobile, and I only have like $30 into a car, and I can't believe that you guys are charging $300 for a tint job. But that person so far hasn't figured out that they're spending gas money and time to run around, and they're spending their time on the phone because they haven't been able to hire somebody yet. And all these things aren't something they're getting paid for. So if they spend most of their day talking to customers and driving to customers and setting up and packing up and all these things that he doesn't get paid for, then all of a sudden doing the tint job seems like it needs to cost a little bit more, because it's got to carry the weight of those other tasks. And you know, but those guys either don't make it or they learn and adjust. That's just the evolution of being a business owner, is noticing all the things. And then when you start getting the potential for the bigger jobs, you land this job, they're like, yeah, we want to go with you, and we need you to send us a copy of your cover sheet for your declaration page, or whatever the hell that you call it, for your insurance. And then you realize, wait a minute, I don't have insurance. And you make a couple phone calls and you realize insurance isn't super cheap. And so, but you want to get this job, so you get the insurance, but the insurance doesn't pay for the job. And then you realize you don't sell as many of those jobs where you absolutely need the insurance. And then people are at a crossroads and they make the decision, do I want to keep this insurance, or is it just not worth it? And the ones that decide that it's just not worth it, well, then they go ahead and have themselves a little fuck up. It costs them a couple $1,000s. And if they had insurance, it would have covered their butt. But instead, now they took a major step back because they didn't have the protection. Or the guys bite the bullet and they just add it to the expense of doing business and realize that that's why people charge what they charge for what they do. Not because that they think that their hour and a half or 2 hours to tint a car is worth $270 in profit. It's because behind the scenes, there's $270 worth of needs that goes into it if you want to sustain. So, yeah. And that's another good point, Tim. Got to strive to create a passive income and grow your comfortable level,
Hey,
or grow to your.
we're not even mentioning the credit card processor non-compliant security fines.
Oh, geez. And that is its own thing. That's a reality. Let's talk about credit card processing for a minute, because Alex just learned a hard one, and I learned the hard one also a while back, and it costed me over $1,000, probably a couple $1,000 to get out of it, because I signed one of those contracts and I was stuck and I couldn't gain PCI compliance with, we're all VoIP, everything's internet. We don't have a secured phone line. Everything runs through the internet. Our phone systems have run through the internet since the beginning. And so that runs through the internet, and it's a whole lot harder doing it that way to become compliant. And I never could. And every month it was a couple $100s that they would charge us for a non-compliance fee, just like a penalty. Because you're not compliant, we're going to charge you this money. Not that that money does anything to protect you or anything. It's just because they can. And now we're with a company that doesn't charge us those fees and doesn't have a contract and doesn't, but I had to pay dearly to get out of that. And I had to buy my equipment, which was its own expense. It was terrible. And Alex just discovered that. So when people ask me about it, I am the first to tell you, you can go through Stripe, you can go through PayPal, you can go through Square. Those are all three companies that will take decent care of you without charging those behind the scenes extra fees. They charge you a percentage, it's usually 2.9% from the rip off of every charge. And
Yeah, Clover's the one that's kind of screwing me right now. They're charging me $212 a month for every month that I haven't been compliant, and it's been about 12 months. And when I try to back out, they said that there's a $700 cancellation fee, and they're gonna charge me $6,000 for breaking the lease on my Clover machine. So that's where I'm at right now. And so now I kind of feel like I'm forced in a situation where I got to figure out this compliant thing, and I can't back out because I don't have $6,700 to fork over, nor do I have $200 a month that I can keep paying for not being compliant. Yeah, yep. For a tent business that I'm not even running, because I tent maybe one car every other week. But it seemed like a good idea because, I mean, they said that, I didn't realize that there was a lease on top of the purchase of the machine. I thought it was like you buy the machine and that's it, but apparently that there's still a lease, and there was a full rebate, but apparently that's just a rebate on the down payment, which was the $1,400. So that's where like the miscommunication got came from. And it was the sales rep that kind of talked me into it, and then I went to go try to call the sales rep, and like his phone's not even on anymore. Apparently, like, he doesn't even work there. So he
The
just
bottom,
like talked me. Yeah, he talked me into some thing that I thought was like cool, and well, as long as I get this rebate back, then like I don't see what the big deal is, and I got the rebate back, and here I am.
yeah. So, I mean, the bottom line is those companies are going to sugarcoat everything for you and make it seem like the sweetest deal. But the reality is every business, and if you're talking to a sales rep, they're representing a business, and every business is there for profit. So just because he's telling you it's free, you got to figure out where do they get their money. And if they're going to give you $1,600 worth of free equipment, there's going to be a hardcore attachment to it. Think of it like your cell phone company, because this is a good one. Most of them have figured out a way to make it fair now, because they're really competitively priced amongst each other, and they're all giving away free $1,000 phones. But what they do is they'll give you the phone and they'll pay the bill for you. So if you leave them, you're, it's like a 2 year. It used to be a 2 year agreement. Now it's like a 2 year lease where it's yours after it's, or 2 year finance or whatever, but they make the payments for the 2 years. So if in 6 months you decide to go with a different company, then you've got 18 months worth of phone to pay for, which is basically $750. And then you can walk away from them. And so it's the same thing with these credit card companies, but the problem is they're dirty. There's nothing public about them. They're not in the public's eyes competing for your business. They're using these sleazy salespeople to walk into your company and promise you the moon. In
Well, it's
reality,
any
they're not going to be working for the company in 6 months.
But like, so from my perspective though, like when I'm an end customer, or what do you call it, end consumer, like somewhere else making a purchase, right? Like I go to the tire change place, or I go to the gas station, or I go to like a coffee shop, and then I see their like Clover, and then from my experience as the end consumer, I have a decent time like getting checked out. Like the Clover machine always seems to work. It looks very sleek and stuff. And in my head, I'm like, if I ran a business, I want to kind of have something like that. So that maybe like I should have something like that. But you're not hearing from them that like, oh, I hate these guys. They're just taking all my money, and like, because I mean the it's usually the business owner that probably deals with all that stuff, for upper management, and like the person that you see at the counter probably doesn't have a clue. And they're probably like, "Oh yeah, I like it. It's really easy to find all the buttons and stuff." And hey, what's up, T Town?
And Tim's got another point. He says the same thing with these solar reps. And that's true, but I think that's temporary, because I honestly believe that solar is going to become more mainstream. And the more mainstream something gets, or more public something gets, then thanks, Tim. Um, then the more transparent it's going to become. And the more transparent it becomes, the more fair it'll become. And the reality is, right now, with solar being relatively new to the consumer, the cost is extremely high, and it's really hard to justify. I mean, me, for instance, maybe I could benefit from solar, but maybe I couldn't, because I'm in Michigan, and the time of the year that I need to benefit the most is the wintertime when I get less sun. But depending on what you're doing, like our shop here, or any shop that's got good square footage, if you've got the footprint to put the panels in to run, like we have a buttload of lights in this place. We have three air conditioners. We've got 4 furnaces. Um, so in the summertime here, it would make sense for us to have solar because our cost is, peak summertime, we're $800, $900 a month. Um,
But
honestly,
I think the
so
question is though is like, do you think you can save enough in the summer to make up for what you have to pay in the winter?
um, it depends on if your utility company has a buyback program. Because if you have the footprint to put enough panels and they have a buyback program, and what that is if you can put enough panels up there to run your meter backwards, they'll pay you for the power that you put into their grid. So in that case, yeah, you could establish a credit throughout the summer so that when you get less daylight, you're putting out less sun, you could chew away at that. But the reality is with solar panels, if you want to do solar, you probably don't want to go to one of those big solar companies with sales reps because remember, there's a long list of people in line that need to be paid, and you're the one that needs to pay them, even if they're like rebates and blah, blah. You know, just like Alex just discovered, there's a catch, and there's always going to be a catch. Solar panels are not that difficult to do. The part that you can't do is wire it to your house, not legally, anyways, because they've got code enforcement and things like that. But um, well, the winter bills here, my winter bills at home are kind of high because I have an enclosed patio that is mainly heated by electric, which is stupid because this little electric space heater actually costs more to run than my air conditioner does at my house. So my electric bills are smaller in the summertime than they are in the wintertime. And so that's its own thing. But in a business like this, where we're here from 8 to 5, that's pretty much daylight hours. Now, obviously, you're not going to generate as much power in the wintertime because of the angle of the sun, but in a business like this, it would make sense because I could run $0 electric bills in the summertime and still gain a little bit in the wintertime. The wintertime here, we've got separate utilities. So we got separate electric and separate gas. So most of our bill is gas in the wintertime. Not a lot of way to save on that. But it just depends on each person's circumstance. But the reality is if you do want to do solar, first things first, even if you're not comfortable doing any of it yourself, seek out your own company that will do it, that is qualified to do it. Don't let a company come to you, because if you let a company come to you, that's one more paycheck you have to write. That salesman that sits down with you and goes over it with you at your house is a paycheck that needs to be written, and those guys make good money. And they make too good of money sometimes. Maybe I should do that. No, I can't handle the rejection, and I'm not pushy enough. There's some pushy people, boy, they'll close a deal. I had a guy come and try to sell me a roof, and I was going to need a roof. And I don't know, he said all the right things. And, he just popped in and I sat down and talked with him. And at the end of the day, I was signing papers and spent $14,000 on a new roof. And Alex did roofing. He knows that roofs don't cost $14,000, not the size of my house. But I mean, don't get me
No.
wrong. I got a couple. Well, and this was also 2014, 2015. So pre fucking world going crazy on us. But
I think it's like the same concept of like that $300 tint job though. Like, like if you have a big company, you got a lot of overhead. You have a lot of employees, you know, um and some of those employees might actually be legal employees like on paper, and then you have to pay like workman's comp and I think the workman's comp is probably a little more expensive because it's more of a risky job, and then you have more people. I don't know. It's just then you got OSHA to deal with. You got to be OSHA compliant. There's a lot.
OSHA doesn't really come into tint shops, but there is a lot. I mean, over at our tint shop, we have 4 employees that are on the books, and we have 1 tinner, 1.5 tinners, because I guess, I mean, I don't know.
I feel like the profit margin for like window tint and like doing a tint job is about the same as like roofing material cost and like what you charge the customer. I think you charge about 10 times. So like if you buy a roll of film for like $250, a good rule of thumb is to charge $250 to tint that car.
Yep.
And so you can get one job or you can get 10 jobs out of one roll of film roughly. And I think it's like kind of like the same concept like that $14,000 it probably only costed them like 1,400 in material. Not counting
And
the labor.
keep in mind on that note, you can, you know, I don't know how many wheels are turning, but if you can do one tint job and pay for a whole roll of film, there's 2 ways you can approach replacing that roll of film. One way, which is the right way, is replace it with the first vehicle you do with it. The other way is the wrong way, and that's replace it with the last vehicle you do with it. Because so many times things can happen. And I've had people go online and bitch about, you know, shipping taking too long and they were screwed because they needed that roll of film and had to cancel cars because they didn't have the roll of film because it took an extra day to ship than they thought it would. And I'm sorry, but it's not your distributor's fault that you chose to use the last car that you tinted with that roll to buy your next roll. You know,
Mind you,
these are things.
people that have been doing this for a few years.
Yeah, yeah. And the reality is we all have the ability to manage things in ways that make it easier for us, and we have the ability to manage them in the way that makes it hard. And the reality is, if you're going to tint for a living, you have to buy the next roll. So you can't say, well, I couldn't afford to buy it with the first car, because the reality is you had to buy it. So if you buy it with the first car or you buy it with the last car, it costs exactly the same amount of money potentially. But if you buy it with the last car and you get a hiccup getting the film, or there was a misunderstanding because you like to call in your orders rather than do it online and see for yourself, and the person thought you said, um, I don't know, I don't have a good example, but say for instance, the person thought you said 5%, not 50%, or the person packing the order grabbed a 50% box and just wasn't having a good day and there was that hiccup. If it's your first car out of the roll, then chances are you get the wrong roll and you're like, oh shit, hey, I just ordered this roll and you sent me the wrong shade. And then by tomorrow I can have you another shade and a call tag to send that one back. Or if you wait until you're out of film to buy it, then you know you're you're screwed for another day, because I can't get you a replacement roll today. I can get you a replacement roll tomorrow, if that makes sense. So there's definitely ways that we can operate and make things harder or easier on ourselves. And all we have to do is take responsibility for the choices we make. And you'll become a better company as a result of it. And we do have some sample books. Sample books are hard to come by these days. Um, as far as for the film, as far as for the tools, basically we have everything except for what we don't have. And if we don't have it and you want it, you just need to tell us. And there's a few things that we don't have just because we haven't thought of it or nobody's requested it. There's other things that we don't have because they're Chinese knockoffs, and I'm not in that market. And there's a couple of things, not really many, that are just either new on the market and not proven. And, it costs a lot of money to put that stuff on the shelf. And I don't want to sell things on a whim or, potential junk. So I do like some things to be proven or at least get my hands on it. Which reminds me, I would have had something to show you guys today, but I got my sample and then a customer came in and he asked about them, and Alex opened his big mouth and said, "Yeah, we got one." And I'm a pushover, so he's like, "Well, can I buy it?" And I'm like, oh, "Fine." So yeah, I don't have something to show you today. So there's that.
Oh, it's that time. Holy smokes.
It is that time. I don't even know what's going on. Ayana's got her banjo. She's leaving.
We'll have to make her play Amazing Grace for everybody next Tuesday.
Oh, you guys missed it too before the live. Alex was on here warming up his voice with Amazing Grace. I want to tell you, this boy's got some pipes on him. Although not all pipes sound the same, so I'm not going to say whether it was good or bad. You'll have to talk him into singing you a tune one day when I'm not here. But it is that time, guys. It's been great. I enjoyed this. 2 weeks without you. I was on the road driving hard last Tuesday. I really thought I was going to make it, but we did too much sightseeing in Colorado. Alex did not lie. Colorado did not disappoint. It was the coolest thing. We saw all kinds of crazy shit.
That
But
state is its like own country.
oh my God, I could spend a week just driving through there. I mean, every other exit, you're like, oh, we need to stop here. And we stopped at all the scenic overlooks because they're just, every one of them is breathtaking and every one of them's different. It's like, how can there be so many different mountain scenes in this damn?
There's
Oh,
a saying that like there's a saying out that way that like if you like had all the free time in the world during your lifespan, you still wouldn't have enough to check out everything that there is in Colorado.
oh, Colorado's amazing. I never bought into it, but geez, uh, to buy into it, all you have to do is drive through it once, and then you're like, oh my God, I need to go back there. There's so much I didn't see. And what's funny is we wanted the reason we saw the bison, there's a bison farm right on the side of the freeway. So we had to stop and see the bison. But the reason we saw them is because we wanted to get back to the train ride to go ride a train through the fucking mountains and tunnels and shit. Cause that seems cool. It's a steam locomotive. Turns out they've been sold out for over a month. And yeah, like we're not going to be here next month. So I guess we're not riding the train. So we played tourists and took some pictures and moved on. But Tim, absolutely. Yeah. Stop in and see us. We're here every Tuesday at 4, or at least one of us is here every Tuesday at 4. I've only ever missed 2, and that was the last 2 weeks. So there's that. But I'm typically here. And in a week and a half, I'm going down to Kentucky, but it's only a weekend trip, so I will not miss a Tuesday for that one. So that's good. Yeah, so hope you didn't talk too much about me in the beginning. I'd be going back to watch. Okay, Alex, reminder, we need to edit that video before Tim goes and watches it. I didn't think he
Oh
was
shit.
here, so all right, guys. So until next week, we'll see you. Peace.
Later.